I'm going to announce that the board is reconvening an open session, and just while we're getting settled, I'm going to read the same announcement I read 30 minutes ago. This meeting is being held remotely as an alternate means of public access pursuant to an order issued by the Governor of Massachusetts dated March 12th, 2020, suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law. You are hereby advised that this meeting and all communications during this meeting may be recorded by the town of Hingham in accordance with the open meeting law. If any participant wishes to record this meeting, please notify the chair in accordance with Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 20F, so that the chair may inform all other participants of said recording. At this time, I would ask that if there is anyone who is recording the meeting, if you please identify yourself either by using the raise hand function, or if you are calling in by telephone, to identify yourself and announce that you are recording. I'll just wait a few seconds for anyone who needs to do that. Okay, seeing none, the next item of business on our agenda, we have 3 sets of minutes from August 24th and 25th. Bill, are you ready to vote on those minutes?
I'm ready.
Okay, so we have 1 set for the 24th. If one of my colleagues wanted to make a motion.
I'd make a motion to approve the minutes dated August 24th, 2020.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, Joe?
Aye.
Bill?
Aye.
Mary? Aye. Next, we have a set of minutes from a meeting on August 25th at 6 p.m.
I move that we accept the minutes of the meeting of August 25, 2020 at 6 p.m.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, Joe?
Aye.
Bill?
Aye.
Mary? Aye. And then we also have minutes for August 25th at 7 p.m. That was a separate meeting.
I'd make a motion to approve the minutes dated August 25th, 2020 at 7 p.m.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, Joe?
Aye.
Bill?
Aye.
Mary? Aye. Okay, thank you. The next item of business on our agenda, we will be reviewing 4 CPC preliminary applications. This evening, we're joined by a number of people, and I welcome you all, and I thank you for being here. I know that we have the chair of the Community Preservation Committee, Larry Lindner, and then representing different, we have different projects, and I'll recognize and identify those people as we go through. Just as a way to set context before this part of the agenda, as many are aware, we have a community preservation committee and a CPC process that actually has already started. We have a committee, and we're very fortunate to have a lot of dedicated people who spend a lot of time and effort vetting projects that will ultimately be considered by town meeting. Tonight, the votes that are being taken, and I want to emphasize this, these are really procedural votes. There are a number of CPC applications that have been submitted. The committee is just at the very early stages of its process. And one requirement of the process is that if there is a project that is taking place or that is occurring on town-owned land, part of the process calls for the Board of Selectmen taking a vote to basically allow the application to go forward. Our votes tonight, if we allow an application to go forward, it doesn't necessarily mean we support a project, because frankly, we don't know what all the projects are. And the CPC hasn't done the very important work that it needs to do. Again, tonight, all we're doing is taking procedural votes to allow projects to go forward for consideration by CPC. And then, in early 2021, they will come before our board, they will come before the advisory committee, and ultimately town meeting will decide that. So given that these are procedural votes, we have gotten copies of all of the CPC preliminary applications. We have also gotten some additional background information on some of the projects. But really, again, tonight is not about presenting projects and discussing the merits. It's basically giving the board enough information to let us make what I would characterize as a go, no-go decision. So, that's a little bit of the lay of the land for tonight. Larry, before I ask you to introduce the first project, did I miss anything in the overview anything you'd like to add?
Thanks, Mary. I just want to make the fine point, and you implied it, but I want to state it flat-footedly, that if the Board of Selectmen vote to allow a final application to be submitted, that does not mean that CPC will deem the application, the final application, complete or eligible for CPC funds. We still may decide at the beginning of the funding cycle, no, this one isn't ready for consideration this year. So right. I wanted to make that point.
Yeah, you're very early in your process, and we're just kind of starting down the field, and we've got a long way to go. And CPC has different gates and different considerations. So again, this is basically just to allow projects to go to the next step, which is an early step. Larry, perhaps you could just give us an overview of the first project, which is Historical and Veteran Services. It's the restoration of town military and historical memorials. And I know this evening we're joined by Andrea Young and Keith JERMYN, our Veteran Services Officer, who can answer questions as needed. But Larry, why don't you give the board an overview if you could?
Sure. This is straight from the preliminary application. And Andrea and Keith are here. And so the applicants are the Historical Commission in collaboration with Keith JERMYN as Hingham's Director of Veteran Services. And the project goal is to restore and preserve memorials that have not been maintained since they were installed and dedicated. This includes engraved granite or bronze plaques affixed to granite boulders. And in the preliminary application, the project cost was given as $25,000, and the request to CPC was for $25,000.
Okay. Joe or Bill, do either of you have any questions about this project prior, again, to us making a procedural vote?
I do have a question. Are these, will the work be done on town property or private property? I just don't see that identified in the application.
Larry, is that something you can answer, or would you prefer that Andrea or Keith answer that question?
They're going to have to answer it because in the preliminary application, they're not required to go into that depth.
Okay.
I can answer
Andrea?
that, Madam Chairman.
Please.
Each of the memorials and the monument are all located on, well, with the exception of one. No, it was given to the town. I'm sorry. They're all on town property. Sorry.
Thank you.
Four.
That's the answer. Great. Thank you.
Bill, did you have any questions?
No, I mean, this is wonderful. What are the four specifically, Andrea and Keith? Could you just mention so the public knows which ones you're looking at for this grant?
Well, one of them is the giant boulder that is on Rockland Street on the way to the Hingham District Court. And few people know that it's there actually, and it's a huge boulder given to the town in honor of the Bouvet family. So there's that one. We also have, we're looking at the canine monuments or memorial that's now located at the DPW.
Yep.
And there is one in particular It is carved into granite, and it's becoming, almost unrecognizable. So it really needs to be, probably, I don't know what they're going to do with it, but anyway, that one needs some work. And then Keith, where's Keith?
Right here.
Okay, and the other two, why don't you talk about the other two?
So the other one that I had on the list was the Lieutenant Curtis Chase Memorial. He was the first Hingham man who lost his life in the Vietnam War. That was placed on a small garden and boulder, a bronze plaque at the site of the then newly constructed Plymouth River School. So there was actually a debate at that time to name the school after that young man, but it was then thought of to a committee named it Plymouth River, and a boulder and garden were set aside for him. I guess he played there as a child. The fourth one, Andrea, I don't have my notes with me. Is it the Hingham? It's on Hull Street, correct?
Yes, in honor of all who have served our country.
So there's a boulder and a small garden with some flowers and shrubs at the Hull Street Park that we call the Hull Street Park. There's a flagpole there as well, and a sign. So at one point, as you know, Hull Street divides Hingham, Hull, in some parts, and Cohasset. So this particular monument is at the Cohasset and the Hingham line. And the Cohasset veterans have named that William H. Newey Square. They have a sign and a wreath that they put up there biannually, and we take care of the boulder, which is a Hingham monument. So that was for their guy. Ours says for all those who have served in all wars. So it accompanies everything. The plaque has come completely off the boulder. There is a substantial cost in resetting that. And if it's down, it should be resurfaced anyway. I know, Andrea, we took some pictures of it, and that one is in really tough shape.
Okay, thank you. Joe or Bill, any further questions?
No, I think this is very worthy that we should proceed.
Okay.
Yep.
Is
Thank
there
you.
anyone in the public who wishes to ask a question or make a comment on this one before the board takes a vote? Okay. Seeing none, I would just add, at this stage in the game for me, it's when I'm thinking about CPC projects, I'm thinking about, are these the types of projects that are consistent with the intent of community preservation funds? And I think when CPC was first designed, one of the things that we recognized is that municipal budgets being as tight as they were, it was often difficult to preserve important aspects of our history. So, I personally am in support of moving this forward because I think it is consistent with the mission of CPC. Again, leaving it to our colleagues on the committee to see, where this falls in the priorities given the available resources. But Bill or Joe, if either of you would like to make a motion.
Happy to do so. I would make a motion to allow the Historical Veteran Services to submit an application for community preservation funding for the restoration of town military and historical memorials.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, Joe?
Aye.
Bill?
Aye.
Mary? Aye. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Keith. Thank you, Andrea. The next project is from the Bear Cove Park Committee. This is an application for funding for the Greenhouse Dock Museum improvements and Ecology Pavilion. I believe that we are joined this evening by Claudia Eaton from the Bear Cove Park Committee. And Ms. Eaton, welcome and thank you for the materials. In addition to the preliminary application, we did review the presentation. Larry, do you want to maybe give us an overview of this one?
Sure. The project goal is twofold. The first is to rehabilitate the Green Dock House Museum, which is Hingham's only war museum, and it's located in Bear Cove Park. If you think of a green building, it'll come to mind. The building requires a new roof, ADA accessibility, and proper ventilation to preserve the artifacts. The second piece of it is to create a recreation bathroom facility and ecology center. What is a protective pavilion that supports up to 50 people to provide shelter and also to serve as a meeting place before entering the museum. The total project cost was given at $287,000, and the request to CPC is for $237,000.
And what is the source for the 50 that's not part of the request?
Claudia?
Yeah, the $50,000 was is going to be given to us from the development for the apartments that are located at Bear Cove.
Great. And Claudia, just for the record, if you wouldn't mind, if you could just give us your name and address.
Sure, I'm Claudia Eaton at 19 Ocean View Drive in Hingham.
Thank you very much. Bill or Joe, questions for Larry or for Claudia with respect to this project?
So I'll start. So of the 287,000, I see 150,000 is for the roof. So it sounds like that's the bulk of where the work needs to be done. Is that correct?
That's correct. That's part of the rehabilitation for the dockhouse.
And I see that with respect to power and lighting that you're looking for solar or wind.
Correct.
Which is, that's very commendable. And your application notes that there's a large oak nearby. Will that be adversely affected by this project, or is it just pruning that would be required?
It would just be the pruning. We would wrap the pavilion up and around the museum so that it's up higher, so you have a view of that beautiful river when you're in the pavilion, and its proximity is good in order to get the power to the museum.
Yep, that's all I have. Thank you for this.
Sure.
Bill?
I also noted that the solar power was wonderful and the wind power. And other than that, Claudia, I appreciate your advocacy for a very popular park.
Thank you.
Okay. Are there any members of the public who have a question or a comment on this particular project? Okay, seeing none, I just have one question. It's my understanding that, again, part of the idea around this pavilion is to enhance the ability for the high school rowing team to use the back river and have, you know, a safe place to seek refuge if there's bad weather and just for gathering, etc.
Correct.
Is that correct?
Yes. It's been used for 2 years now, as well, not this year, but the year prior, for rowing. And one of the things they requested was a way for a place to tuck under if there wasn't a storm that came up. And we've noticed that the park's getting great use this year, and bathrooms would be very helpful for folks. So if we created a model of a green building model that would show like compost toilets, rainwater use, solar wind power, it would be it could serve as a model for green building throughout Hingham.
Thank you. You know, again, you know, looking at this, I think this is, again, the type of project that is very well suited for community preservation funding. And I would note from the application that it is both, it both relates to historic and to recreation, which are two of the four kind of allowable uses of CPC funds. Would one of my colleagues want to make a motion?
Sure. I move to allow the Bear Cove Park Committee to submit an application for community preservation funding for the Greenhouse Dock Museum improvements and Ecology Pavilion.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, Joe?
Aye.
Bill?
Aye.
Mary? Aye. Thank you. Next is the Country Club Management Committee. This is for funding for the South Shore Country Club Town Pool Project. I believe that we are joined by members of the Country Club Committee Christine Smith, Bill Friend, I believe Stephen White, welcome to the committee. I also note that Kevin Whalen is on. I apologize if I'm missing anybody from the Country Club Management Committee. Larry, if perhaps you could give an overview of this.
Sure. So the project is the Hingham Town Pool. Kevin filled out the preliminary application on behalf of the Country Club Management Committee. The project goal is to relocate and construct a new town pool at the South Shore Country Club because the existing pool has lived beyond its useful life and was permanently closed at the end of the 2019 season. The project total cost was given as $7,600,000, and the CPC request is for $3,050,000.
Okay, and maybe before opening up to my colleagues, and I'm not sure if this is a question for Larry or for a member of the committee, but the annual town meeting, the most recent one, 2020, did appropriate some community preservation funds. And I wondered if maybe somebody, perhaps from the committee, could just speak to the status of the most recent CPC award and kind of how that fits. Maybe if somebody from the committee or Kevin could raise their hand. I'm not sure who would. Okay, Christine, and could you please give your name and address for the record?
Sure. Christine Smith, Chair of the Country Club Management Committee, 2 Park Circle in Hingham. We've been before CPC for a number of years now, and we're always appreciative of their support. At the most recent town meeting, we received $500,000 in CPC funding to be used for the design of a new town pool, as well as construction documentation. We're in that process right now. We actually put out an RFQ, which closed about a week and a half ago. We had 15 people respond, and we are in the process of going through the credentialing right now, along with town council and the folks at town hall, to set up the interview process to actually hire the operating project manager. And we had our meeting on September 14th for the CCMC, at which point we reviewed where we were in the process, voted to submit this preliminary application. Our next meeting is on October 6th, which is next week. So we'll see where we are in that process as we continue the process towards eventually having a new town pool for Hingham.
Thank you. Joe or Bill, questions about this application?
Just a question. You've got a project cost of 7.6 million and the CPA request of slightly over 3 million. If you could explain where those numbers come from and the gap between the CPA request and the project total cost.
Sure. I mean, this has been sort of a moving target. So this application is exactly the same application we submitted last year. We started off as a capital request, and as we went through the process, we realized that we needed a little bit more time to sort of fine tune the project, and we ended up with, you know, the $500,000 to design it. And, you know, part of that conversation was that what we quickly realized, and we had a lot of conversations about it last year, is that as an enterprise fund, we have to be able to, you know, afford our expenses and as well as our debt.
Right.
And so we'll be paying for the maintenance facility, which is being done sort of in conjunction with this. And the rest of it, in terms of paying for the town pool, would be something that the expense would have to be borne by the town, because we realized that at this point, the country club doesn't generate enough revenue to cover that cost. So these numbers were based upon the information that we received last year. We also did go to visit Canton. Canton is doing a very similar project that's almost done, and a lot of these figures were based upon what Canton's project looked like. And we visited there last week. They were actually just getting ready to put the water in. Obviously, everyone has been quite delayed due to COVID. That has delayed our process as well. And so just everyone needs to keep that in mind. As we looked at our timelines, I think everything got adjusted to be much longer than we anticipated. And we're still dealing with that fact as we figure out the timing to move forward.
Great, thank you. I appreciate it. That's it.
Bill?
I would just add that, you know, there's a tremendous amount of interest in the pool. And Christine, very much appreciate you advancing the conversation about how, as a town and a community, we get there. And I know that you've been really busy with the committee, doing a lot of work over the summer, and I very much appreciate your efforts in advancing this conversation.
Thanks, Bill. It's a true team effort.
Any members of the public would like to either ask a question or make a comment with respect to this application? I recognize Bill Reardon. If you could unmute yourself and give your name and address, please.
Yes, it's Bill Reardon, 9 Steamboat Lane in Hingham, Chair of the Harbor Development Committee. Christine, I'm just trying to understand a little better the response that you just gave to Selectman Fisher. So am I to understand that of the $7.6 million, $3 million relates to the pool, and that is entirely being requested from CPC, and the remainder is coming through the capital budget for the maintenance facility, which will be under a capital request for the enterprise fund? Did I hear that right?
I'll answer this question, Bill, and if people could direct questions to the chair, that would be great.
Thank you, sorry.
It's okay. My understanding is that the total cost for a pool, and again, these are preliminary numbers, is $7.6 million, and the Country Club Committee is seeking CPC funding for about half. The open question is where the other half of the funding might come from, which I would say is part of the discussion process as we work through. Christine, did I capture that correctly?
Yes, I didn't mean to confuse everyone by talking about the maintenance facility. The maintenance facility is being paid in full by the Country Club.
Yep. And I would just say, Bill, that this, as Christine's mentioned, this has come up a few times over the past several years, and I think that given the other capital projects in the town that are under consideration right now, the general feeling for a bit of time has been that CPC is a potential source for some of the funding to replace the pool, where other large capital projects wouldn't necessarily qualify for CPC funds.
Thank you, Mary and Christine. Appreciate the answer.
And I would just add before taking a motion from one of my colleagues, I think that the CPC process happens once a year. So if you don't get your preliminary application in now, if you're ready to go in January, you've sort of already missed a funding cycle. And so I think we all recognize, as Christine said, that the initial feasibility work has been delayed due to COVID. But I think the Country Club Committee is also trying to act in a responsible manner, understanding that this asset was, that our pool is no longer in service, and that it is something that is important to the community. So, to me, again, this is keeping open as many possibilities as we can, which at this stage in our process, to me, feels like a much better approach and the appropriate approach to do. So, Christine, I know that you've put out an RFQ, and Tom and Michelle have helped, and there have been good responses. So, we'll see how this all kind of plays out as we continue to work through the fall.
Great, thank you.
With that, I'd accept a motion.
I make a motion to allow the Country Club Management Committee to submit an application for community preservation funding for the South Shore Country Club Town Pool Project.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, Joe?
Aye.
Bill?
Aye.
Mary? Aye. Country Club Committee and staff, thank you very much for joining us tonight. The next application that we have is for funding for the vision for Hingham's Inner Harbor. I know we're joined by Bill Reardon. I also had a note that Alan Peralt may be joining. He may be on a telephone number, and his name is not coming up, but Larry, perhaps you could provide an introduction relative to this project, and Bill is available for questions.
Sure. So the application comes jointly from the Harbor Development Committee, represented by Bill, and the Bathing Beach trustees, represented by Alan. And together, those two entities steward the harbor front. And the goal is also kind of twofold. One is to create a vision for managing waterfront activities that might range from such things as concerts and activities for school groups and options for town recreation department programming. And the other piece of it is developing additional infrastructure to allow access to the water, such as more mooring spaces for boats, for outside boating visitors to downtown, as well as perhaps for more Hingham boaters. And the CPC request is in a range right now, which is fine for a preliminary application, of $60,000 to $75,000.
Okay. Bill or Joe, questions for either Larry or for Bill?
Sure, I'll start. I mean, I think I agree what the CPC chair just said, and certainly what Bill has been advocating for many years, the importance of the harbor to Hingham. It is really a core value of this town, and his work and the work of his committee is just exemplary. It'd be helpful for me to understand how this request relates to the current vision study that's going on. There's the Harbor and Downtown Sustainable Vision Study. I believe it was funded. The total funding was about $28,000. It includes $25,000 that was awarded to the town by the MAPC, the Metropolitan Area Planning Council, and another $3,000 by the town. I believe that study had its first meeting July 8th, and there's another meeting set on October 13th. I'm wondering if there are deficiencies in that study, or how what's being proposed relates to the current vision study that is going on with respect to the harbor.
Bill, could you answer that?
Sure. Let me respond to that. We worked with the town to, in part at the urging of the Community Preservation Committee, to look to other sources. We looked to the Seaport Bond Council. We looked to an environmental group within the state. And then we including one of my members, Marco Bohr, who knows MAPC well because he was on their Southeast Regional board. We worked toward the application and have been attending. We attended the first session in July. What we learned in that session was that the total request originally was something in the order of $50,000+, Joe, but that the funding that they had, which, as you know, comes in the form of consultants' work that they are providing to the work, so that they had to pull the scope in somewhat from what had been originally contemplated, so that the scope has much less of the focus on the activities and the appearance and the architecture, landscape architecture, and the sense of the harbor front itself. I think it is fair to say that MAPC's sweet spot is particularly linkage and transportation. And the first meeting that I attended was, really the beginning, and everyone putting out their interests. But much of the focus was on the link between downtown and coming down North Street, the intersections, the transportation alternatives that might be available. There was also a fair amount of discussion about how do we tie that bit of real estate into what's going on over at the shipyard, but really not as much at all for the kinds of things that Larry might have mentioned, that we've made this application twice before, 2 years ago and last year, and each time there were other commitments and it was not possible. So I hope I've responded to your question, Joe.
So I'm not quite sure. Are you proposing something that adds more funding to the existing study, or it would be a separate study or a sequel? I'm trying to understand the relation between what's being proposed and what's currently going on.
It would be a separate study, understanding that the MAPC effort is not going to do much of the kinds of things that we are feeling are important. I did send a very brief little slide deck to Michelle, and I don't know whether you folks had a chance to look at it.
Got it.
We tried to articulate there. We're aware of these other efforts, including the town master plan, the Route 3A design. All of these need to be in sync, but what we don't really have, and MAPC is not going to deliver a revised master plan for the harbor of the kind that we had in 2007. So that's now 13 years old. So it would be supplemental, Joe. It would be a different effort. We'd be very mindful and working, in sync with all of those other studies, but it's not the same thing.
Okay. That's all I got. Thank you.
Bill?
There's a lot of great things going on at the harbor. And Bill, thanks so much for all the great work you've done down there. If you look at the new restaurant, the brick walkways, the historical plaques, it's come a long way. And I know your committee had a lot to do with that. And I think having a study specifically focused on the next steps down there is a good one. So thanks for bringing this forward.
Yeah. Any questions or comments from the public on this application? Bill, I would like to thank you for providing that additional information. Like Joe, I was trying to understand whether kind of how this fit with some of the other work, and making sure that, just trying to understand the scope of both pieces. And I think I understand that better. If one of my colleagues would like to make a motion.
Sure. I'll move to allow the Harbor Development Committee to submit an application for community preservation funding for the vision for Hingham's Inner Harbor.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, Joe?
Aye.
Bill?
Aye.
Mary? Aye. Bill, thank you very much. And Larry, thank you. And we know your committee is going to be doing a lot of work over the next several weeks. I think we will see you, if not sooner, in January, when you'll be coming forward to us with recommendations. So we appreciate all the great work that your committee does.
Thanks, Mary.
Okay, the next item of business on the agenda is the COVID-19 update. Tom, are you leading off on that?
I can do it, Mary. It's a little bit longer than usual. Do you want to do some of the others with people here, or do you want me to go forward with
No,
them?
you know what? Why don't we do the possible votes? Thank you for bringing that up.
Nope.
Why don't we start out? And I do see that David Ellison from the Lincoln School Apartments has joined us. So we have a possible vote to approve Corcoran Management as the manager of the Lincoln School Apartments. Tom, maybe you could just give an overview, and then we'd ask David to add anything as needed.
If you don't mind, I'm going to default over to the assistant town administrator,
Okay.
Ms. Monsegur.
Everybody's moving around on my screen. People are leaving and people are moving. Michelle, take it away.
Sure. Thanks, Tom and Mary. So this is something that comes up every 3 years. The town has leased out Lincoln School Apartments to the Lincoln School Apartments LLC, and they, every 3 years, select a property manager. The way we structure the contract with the board, and Dave is the chair, is to have it's a 1 year term with 2 additional possible 1 year extensions that are at the sole discretion of the LSA board. Corcoran Management Company is the current manager of the property. We just completed an RFP process to do the next contract. The board met last week they were the only company that responded to the RFP, which was the same result we got in 2019. And Dave and his team reviewed that proposal last week and is recommending moving forward with that agreement. The agreement is between the LSA LLC and Corcoran. And per the town's lease, the Board of Selectmen need to approve Corcoran as the manager and the form of the contract, which was prepared by our real estate counsel.
Okay. At this point, I would just ask David Ellison, Chair of the Lincoln School Apartment, if you had anything to add before opening it up to my colleagues for questions.
Well, I'll just say Corcoran
Dave,
is.
could you start by giving your name and address for the record, please?
Oh, sorry. Dave Ellison, 14 South Lane, Chairman of the LSA Board. Corcoran has been the manager since we've owned the property and was the manager prior to our owning it. So there's a long history of them owning the property. I've been through 2 bid cycles now, and they've been the only bidder. So I'm not sure what that means, but it's been, the process hasn't been as hard as it could have been because we only had 1 selection. But in terms of their performance, again, watching them for 6 or 7 years now, we're lucky to have them. They're very knowledgeable in the Section 8 housing that we have, and they own, I don't know, 20 or 30 properties in the area. And so I use them a lot to sort of bounce ideas off of in terms of, what they're doing versus what we're doing, the costs, et cetera, et cetera. So, and obviously with the recent COVID, it's been very good to have them as a resource to understand what they're doing in the other buildings and what we did and what we didn't do. So it's been a good relationship, and I think we're lucky to have them as the building manager.
Thank you. Joe or Bill, any questions for Michelle or David?
So I'll start. I went over the management agreement. I've discussed it with the town's real estate counsel, Susan Murphy, and I think it properly protects the town. I was not understanding before who the contract is between. I understand Corcoran on one side, and it's between Corcoran and the Lincoln School Apartments LLC, which is, I understand it, is a limited liability company that is essentially the owner is the Hingham Affordable Trust, Hingham Affordable Housing Trust. So
Correct.
That's the connection here. The trust has exercised very prudent oversight responsibility, a lot of work. I'm satisfied that we should be proceeding with the management agreement. There are appropriate outs if it turns out that things don't go well as we all expect that they will. So I think the town's protected, and I think the selection of Corcoran Management Company is a selection that I would endorse.
Thank you. Bill?
The only question I had was, I know we've always contracted with Corcoran. Has it always been a 3-year agreement?
It's a 1-year agreement with two there's options to extend.
Oh, got it. Okay.
Yeah,
I'm reading the term for 3. Go ahead.
Yeah, the agreement's always been in this form where you've had a 1-year deal with a 3-year deal with a 1 year. So I think we've gone through 3 cycles now with Corcoran, and they've all been the same. So we haven't changed that. Again, we're going out to 3 years, which is the max we can do. I prefer to do a 5-year deal or a 10-year deal with a 1-year renewal, but we can't do that because of the rules of I don't know, Michelle, I can't remember the rule on that, but
Yeah, there's procurement constraints
Right.
that make us do it this way.
I'm wondering that because if it's working well between the parties, why not take it out to 5 or longer? But yeah, I understand. Thank you.
Any members of the public have a question or wish to make a comment? David, I just wanted to thank you and the board as well as Corcoran for all the care that you've all taken, particularly during this COVID crisis. In big and small ways, you've made the building safe, protected the residents, helped find creative ways to get people services and resources that they needed. And you know, when you look around the Commonwealth and you see that many, you know, many senior housing facilities had significant outbreaks of COVID, I think it's to the credit of all who have operated the Lincoln School Apartments that that people have emerged from this healthy. We hope that that continues, and again, just appreciate everybody's effort in that regard. Would one of my colleagues like to make a motion?
I'd make a motion to approve Corcoran Management Company Incorporated as the manager of the Lincoln School Apartments for a term of up to 3 years commencing on October 1st, 2020, and to approve the proposed form of management agreement.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, Joe?
Aye.
Bill?
Aye.
Mary? Aye. Thank you. David, thank you for joining us this evening.
Yep.
But before we go to our next possible vote, I saw that Alan Peralt kind of came into the meeting and then left. I think he was here for the CPC, but I'm sorry that he left, because I wanted to thank him and Chris Daly and Ed Johnson for all the great work. And I know they were supported by J.R. Fry, by Susan Murphy, Michelle Monsegur, Tom Mayo, in bringing the Snack Shack to fruition. It's a great addition to the harbor. It looks like it's always been there. It was just wonderful that it could open. We were there over the weekend, and a lot of people were enjoying it. So again, I'm sorry that Alan didn't remain on, but did want to extend the town and the board's appreciation for the many, many years that went in to make that a reality. And I see Bill Reardon is on the line still, and Bill was involved as well. That's just a really great win for Hingham, and our congratulations to everybody who helped make it happen.
So Mary, just so you know, when I saw Alan come on, I texted him that the other thing had just ended. That's probably why he jumped off. So that's my fault. I would say I just had an ice cream with Ed Johnson down there about 2 hours ago. So I told him I thought he did a great job. And if you don't mind, I just wanted to add Mike Clancy did a really top-notch job and a ton of work down there to help us get that thing open. So
yep, absolutely. A lot of people jumped in just very big ways that
yep.
It wouldn't be open without it. So thank you, and thank you to Mike. The next item of the next possible vote that we have relates to the annual Hingham Arts Walk. I see we're joined by Lynn Barclay, who is the head of the Hingham Downtown Association. Michelle, is this you? Or is this Tom? Or is this Lynn?
It can be. I'm sure Lynn can provide more details, but this is an annual event that they're hosting down in Hingham Square. It's actually the 15th annual Arts Walk. It involves vendors and artists displaying their handicrafts and their fairs out on the sidewalk. Most of this is going to take place outside. Lynn and I did have a conversation with Susan Sarney to make sure that she was comfortable from a COVID perspective. We're trying to find ways to facilitate these events while still keeping everyone safe. So the board saw that there were a number of conditions that Ms. Sarney has placed on the event, and we talked about that with Ms. Barkley. But this would take place on
October 18th.
October 18th from 12 to 4 p.m. and involves a number of the sidewalks as well as the tunnel cap in the square.
Okay. Before opening it up to my colleagues for questions, Lynn, did you have anything to add?
I do. Can you hear me? I just want to
give your name and address for the record, please.
Certainly. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Lynn Barclay, 11 Cottage Street. Just thank you for putting the approvals up forward on the agenda. Yes, this is our 15th annual Hingham Arts Walk. I can't believe it. It's actually my 4th Arts Walk. And this event allows the community to experience the art throughout downtown Hingham. Artists display their talents in the shops, on sidewalks, in the tunnel cap, in historical buildings. Artists can demonstrate, display, and sell their work during the Arts Walk. It's a really great way to bring the community downtown And it's a win-win, not only for the merchants, but also for the artists too. And we have everything from demonstrations, plein air painting, to throwing pottery on a wheel. One year we had Bill Hersey making his Hingham buckets right out front of the Hingham Heritage Museum the year that they opened. So it is Sunday, October 18th. We are asking for the use of the sidewalks and the tunnel cap from 12 to 4 during that day. There are no closures necessary, and we will not impede or obstruct any of the pedestrian pathways. The locations are 30 and 9 Main Street to North Street, South Street from Central to North, and North Street from Central to Mill Street, and 69 Water Street.
Thank you. Joe or Bill, any questions for Lynn or for Michelle?
So Lynn, I know that a number of residents look forward to this every year. A number of folks from outside of the town look forward to this every year. It's really a great contribution, so thank you. I haven't heard to what extent this has been reviewed by the police department from a safety perspective or traffic perspective. Can someone comment on that?
Sure. Both the police department and the fire department reviewed and said they have no issues with it.
Then I've got no other questions. It's a thorough presentation, and looking forward to it again.
Thanks, Joe.
Bill?
Just wanted to add, despite everything going on, Lynn, the Downtown Association is doing great, and the downtown is doing really well. So I look forward to attending walk on the 18th.
Any questions or comments from the public? Lynn, I'm glad that we can make this happen this year. I appreciate Susan Sarney's efforts. You're going to see that we have a slightly longer motion because we thought it would be a good idea in the recommended motion to memorialize the COVID restriction, the COVID measures being taken. I shouldn't call them restrictions.
Mary, I'm sorry. I think Christine had a question.
Oh, sorry about that. Christine Smith?
Yep, no, that's Christine. To Park Circle, more of a comment. One thing that we have been working on over at the Country Club, which I didn't realize the Arts Walk was going to be October 18th, is we are going to be putting together what we're going to call sort of Hingham Family Day, which might work nicely with the Downtown Association, where we're going to have families be able to come up to the Country Club in a COVID-friendly environment and maybe take out a golf cart, play a few holes of golf, maybe check out the Sims, the golf simulator. So it could be kind of a nice Hingham Day for everybody, all of downtown.
Thank you.
Thanks, Christine.
Would one of my colleagues like to make a motion?
I move to approve the request from the Hingham Downtown Business Association to use the sidewalks and tunnel cap for the 15th annual Hingham Arts Walk on Sunday, October 18th, 2020, from noon to 4 p.m. at the following locations: 39 Main Street to North Street, South Street from Central to North, North Street from Central to Mill Street, and 69 Water Street. The following conditions apply. 1, masks should be worn at all times by retailers and guests. 2, no food or beverages can be served to the public. No samples or free tastings allowed. 3, retailers are in charge of their store space and in front of store, post signs or wearing a mask on doors. Let me revise that. Post signs about wearing a mask on the doors. 4, when possible, maintain 6 feet of space inside and outside of stores. 5, provide hand sanitizer to public and staff. 6, add arrows in store for flow of traffic. 7, no sampling or application of personal goods. 8, no singing or live music performances. 9, no alcohol. 10, live art demonstrations to be held outdoors. And 11, the Executive Health Officer for the Town of Hingham reserves the right to cancel this event if the town moves to a high-risk COVID community.
I would second that, but can I ask a quick question before we move on the motion?
Sure.
Why no live music? I mean, I think in past years it's been, I think, Lynn, I think you've had a singer there, and is that a restriction due to COVID?
I believe that's a COVID restriction.
Okay,
That was
All right.
something from the Board of Health, Bill.
probably congregating around the singer, probably. Okay,
Exactly. Susan Sarney was trying to have everyone spread out and not attract a group of people in one area.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, Joe?
Aye.
Bill?
aye.
Mary? Aye. Lynn, thank you very much. I think before moving to the COVID-19 update, we have a number of appointments that we want to make, and I noticed that we still have over 20 people on the phone, so I might, if my colleagues are okay with it, move to that next. This is again continuation of our appointment process. If I'm looking at the list, I see that the first vote tonight could be for the Zoning Board of Appeals. Joe, I think that's you.
That is me. And I understand at a prior meeting, Lauren Galvin, I don't know if it was appointed or nominated to be on the tree bylaw committee. Her expressed interest to us, and her first choice is to serve on the Zoning Board of Appeals, and the process that the Board of Selectmen has followed is that we would appoint someone as an associate member, not as a full member, at least initially, just to see how that works out. And so I would move to appoint Lauren Galvin as an associate member to the Zoning Board of Appeals for a one-year term ending June 30, 2021.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, Joe?
Aye.
Bill?
Aye.
Mary? Aye. And Ms. Galvin informed me that she would not be able to serve on both committees, so we will have one opening on the tree bylaw committee that still needs to be filled. The next one I have on our list is the Bear Cove Park Committee, and I think Michelle mentioned to me, Bill, that you might be wanting to make an appointment to that committee.
I do, and I'm happy to do that. Before we do that though, Mary, we have an unlimited number of appointments as associate members to the ZBA, and I was gonna appoint someone as well, if that's okay.
Sure, sure. Go ahead, Bill.
Given the fact it's unlimited, and I would move to appoint Crystal Kelly as an associate member to the Zoning Board of Appeals for a one-year term ending June 30th, 2021.
Bill, is she on another committee right now?
She is not.
She's on the Conservation
I
Commission.
believe she's on the Conservation Commission, and I'm unaware that we've ever had a situation where someone's been on both the Zoning Board and the Conservation Commission.
Okay, I thought she was coming off of Concom. I will double check that with her. So I'll withdraw that motion at this point.
Okay, I believe that she is on the Concom for, let's see, her term doesn't expire until 2022.
Yeah.
Okay,
So
all right, I thought she was coming off this year.
if
Okay.
you could check, okay. Bill, did you have a nomination for the Bear Cove Park Committee?
I'd make a motion to appoint David Sargent to the Bear Cove Park Committee for a 3-year term ending June 30th, 2023.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, Joe?
Aye.
Bill?
Aye.
Mary? Aye. Next, we're going to take up the Citizens Advisory Board for the Weir River Water System. I'd like to lead off on this, and I would make a motion to appoint Chrissy Roberts to the Citizen Advisory Board for the Weir River Water System for a 1-year term ending June 30th, 2021.
Second. Oh, yeah, 2 seconds.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, Joe?
Aye.
Bill? Bill?
Aye.
Mary? Aye. Okay. Would either of my colleagues like to offer a nominee for the Citizen Advisory Board?
I'd like to move to appoint Stephen Weiss to the Citizens Advisory Board for the Ware River Water System for a 2-year term ending June 30, 2022.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, Joe?
Aye.
Bill?
Aye.
Mary? Aye. We have one more appointment to that board. If anybody was interested in advancing someone.
I make a motion to appoint Sam Mullen to the Citizens Advisory Board for the Ware River Water System for a 3-year term ending June 30th, 2023.
I second the appointment of Sam Mullen.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, Joe?
Aye.
Bill?
Aye.
Mary? Aye. Just a note before we move on, Tom and Michelle, given that our friends in Hull and Cohasset have appointments to that, perhaps in the near future, we could reach out to Phil Lemnios and Chris Senior so that they could help us staff the remaining 3 seats so that the cab could be up and running soon.
Sounds good.
I would like to make a motion to appoint Brian Appel to the 4th of July Parade Committee for a 1-year term ending June 30th, 2021.
I would, I'm sorry?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, Joe?
Aye.
Bill?
Aye.
Mary? Aye. We have 2 openings on the Harbor Development Committee.
So I would like to appoint Paul Gannon to the Harbor Development Committee. And I know that there are 2 different terms. One is ending in 2022 and one is ending in 2023. So before I actually finalize that motion, I didn't know if there's going to be another appointment this evening, and if so, I'd like to have a discussion about whether there's a preference for 2022 or 2023 for either appointment.
I would actually like to move forward the nomination of Scott Darby for the Harbor Development Committee. I had a conversation with Mr. Darby over the weekend to confirm his interest and availability. He is available to serve a 3-year term, but you know, Joe and Bill, I leave it to you as to the tenure. Hopefully both of these candidates would be willing to not only serve 1 term, but 2, which is our tradition. But I think Mr. Darby would be pleased with either a 2 or a 3-year term.
I will defer to the chair on how you'd like that resolved. Bill, do you have any?
No, I mean, both great candidates. Happy to,
Yes.
to move in either direction, Mary.
Yeah, you know, the way I look at this is I'm happy to have candidates serve for, you know, 2 3-year terms. So to me, while I understand these terms expire, I think we're offering them both, you know, a 6-year commitment. So, you know, Joe, why don't we just based on our vote list and the fact that you advanced Mr. Gannon's name first, you know, perhaps you could amend your motion for Mr. Gannon for the term ending June 30th, 2023.
Yes, so I move to appoint Paul Gannon to the Harbor Development Committee for a 3-year term ending June 30, 2023.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, Joe?
Aye.
Bill?
Aye.
Mary? Aye. And so I'll make a motion to appoint Scott Darby to the Harbor Development Committee to fill an unexpired term ending June 30th, 2022.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, Joe?
Aye.
Bill?
Aye.
Mary? Aye. Bill Reardon, you have a full committee. Woo-woo! And our last one, I would like to make a motion to appoint Brendan Concannon to the Massport Community Advisory Committee for a 3-year term ending June 30th, 2023.
Mary, at the prior meeting, we had, at my recommendation, appointed Paul Gannon for that position. I understand that he's communicated his intention to not serve so that he would be on
Correct.
the Harbor Development Committee. Is that correct?
Correct.
So with that, I then second your motion.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, Joe?
Aye.
Bill?
Aye.
Mary? Aye. Bill or Joe, did either of you have any other appointments this evening?
I do not.
I have someone for the tree bylaw, if we could move on that.
Pardon me?
I have someone for the tree bylaw committee.
Okay.
So Tom, is that a 3-year term?
You know what, that's for the, I'm just gonna check. That was for the seat that we had appointed Ms. Galvin to, and
Yep.
she had asked her preference, so actually, I believe we did all those as 3-year commitments, understanding that the committee's work would most likely be completed by then. So, Bill, I'd be happy to entertain a motion on that.
I would make a motion to appoint Ben Smith to the tree bylaw committee for a 3-year term ending June 30th, 2023.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, Joe?
Aye.
Bill?
Aye.
Mary? Aye. Any other appointments for this evening?
I do not.
Okay. All right, so now maybe we could go to the COVID-19 update. Tom and Michelle, who's going to lead off on this?
I will.
Okay.
Ready?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Our COVID-19 update for this week. As of today, the Department of Public Health is reporting 129,243 confirmed cases in Massachusetts, of which 9,726 are in Plymouth County. As of last Wednesday, the Mass DPH was reporting 333 confirmed COVID-19 cases in Hingham, putting us in the yellow category. That same data indicated that the percent of people in Hingham testing positive for COVID-19 during the previous 2 weeks was 1.72%, which was higher than the Plymouth County average of 1.42% and the state average of 0.85% during that same 2-week period. The health department issued a message last week explaining that unlike in the spring, the recent increases in cases in Hingham is not primarily attributable to nursing homes and residences for vulnerable populations. Instead, we are seeing an increase in transmission in the community at large, and in particular, an increase in transmission between members of the same household. At the state level, the DPH is also reporting an increase in cases among Massachusetts residents ages 20 to 29. We remind everyone to please stay vigilant and do your part. Now is not the time to let your guard down. Please continue to practice social distancing, wear a face covering in public, avoid large gatherings, and frequently wash your hands. Today, Governor Baker's office announced that effective Monday, October 5th, lower risk communities will be permitted to move into step 2 of phase 3 of the Commonwealth's reopening plan, which would allow for additional sectors and venues to open with restrictions. Lower risk communities are defined as cities and towns that have not been a red community in any of the last 3 DPH weekly reports. We must all work together if we're going to prevent Hingham from becoming a red community. The Hingham Health Department continues to work with DPH, state epidemiologists, and municipal and school leaders to monitor the COVID-19 situation in Hingham. Thank you, Mary.
Michelle?
Nothing to add this week. Thanks, Mary.
Joe or Bill, any questions for Tom?
No, thank you.
Bill?
No questions.
I would just echo Tom's point. One of the exciting things about this latest move that takes effect on Monday is that it increases the allowable attendance at high school sporting events. And you know, when I think about parents, when I think about students, how wonderful is it going to be for friends of our student athletes and family members to watch our student athletes compete. It's one of the few places where, particularly in the high school community, we can build community and show support. So, you know, staying out of that red zone will give us the opportunity to help celebrate and support our student athletes and give the students in this community an opportunity to gather and show their support. So I would echo Tom's hope that we as a community can stay out of the red. And I know tomorrow we will probably get, Wednesday is the day we get weekly results. So we'll,
That's right.
we hope that that's the case.
That's right.
Next item of business is public comment. We've set aside up to 15 minutes. We would accept public comment for up to 3 minutes per speaker. Is there anyone who wishes to make a comment at this time? Seeing none, we'll go to Town Administrator and Selectmen reports. Tom, anything additional to report?
I do, if you don't mind, I'd like to read a couple of notes just
Please.
to update some folks. Per our FY21 financial management plan, the forecast group, which has representatives from the Board of Selectmen, the municipal finance team, the advisory committee, the school committee, and the school department, met last week to conduct a review of August revenue and expenditure projections. So far, it appears that revenues and expenditures are on track. We continue to take a very cautious approach with respect to expenditures to see some minor fluctuations in revenues due to the timing of receipts. Since our major revenues come in on a quarterly basis, we will be able to make more meaningful adjustments to our projections after our first quarterly review in mid-October. Also, I just wanted everyone to be aware that we've received a request from AMC Stalwart Productions to film a portion of a TV series near 1939 Main Street in Hingham Square over Columbus Day weekend. Our office is coordinating with police, fire, building, health, and other departments to make sure that this can take place safely.
Thank you. Michelle, anything to add this evening?
No, thanks, Mary.
Joe?
Just two things. First, real congratulations on getting the Hingham Bathhouse open. It's been so well received by the residents, and it has the endorsement of our town administrator in terms of the quality of the ice cream. So it's really great. So thanks for all who participated in that. And I know there was some discussion about the schools and high school. I just wanted to add that Hingham Little League, 8 and under, they participated in a 8 and under friendship league, and they just had tremendous success. So congratulations to them.
Thank you. Bill?
I just want to congratulate JT JERMYN, who was a midshipman at the United States Naval Academy. Today he signed his what is known as a 2 to 7 year agreement with the United States Navy, meaning that he's going to continue and finish at the academy, and when he's commissioned, he'll serve on active duty in the United States Navy for 5 years. We're very fortunate in Hingham to have several of our residents serving at the service academies. And I saw that news today about JT, and knowing him and his dad and family was proud to see it, and I wanted to give him a shout out.
Thank you very much. I had a couple of things. First of all, the board did meet in executive session at 6:30 this evening, and I'm pleased to announce that the board has made a determination to begin negotiations with Fire Chief Steve Murphy for a new employment contract with the town. The final contract will be subject to a vote of approval by the Board of Selectmen at a future meeting. Couple other updates. Last week, Tom and I participated in a telephone call with the Massachusetts School Building Authority, representatives from the school committee and the school department and the Foster School Building Committee. The enrollment, an enrollment study is really the basis for determining the size of a new foster school. And the enrollment study that is taking place right now, first of all, it leveraged an existing enrollment study that had been completed by the building committee when it was first formed in 2018. It also takes into account a lot of different data from different sources. It also looks at capacity within the district. And essentially, once the MSBA comes up with what it sees as an enrollment figure for Foster School, that's really going to drive the number of classrooms, the size of the cafeteria, the size of the auditorium, the size of the library. And, you know, the good news is that the Hingham enrollment study that was done a few years ago was looking at kind of an average enrollment in the high 400s. The MSBA information that we reviewed last week is coming in at around 500. So a little bit bigger, but that's a very important step in the process. I would also just point out, and I know this was pointed out in a school committee meeting, the MSBA has a very deliberative and purposeful process, and they have certain activities that have to be done, and there are certain time windows set forth for completing them. So, you know, I know for a lot of people, it's feeling like this project is moving slowly, and some people have asked, you know, gee, is there any way we can accelerate the Foster School project? And the short answer is, we do have to go through this MSBA process. They have to actually make an award of the money to Hingham. We are on track for doing that. They are very pleased with what they're getting from Hingham. But I think right now the school committee is envisioning that, that they would be coming forward to seek construction funding from the town in July of 2022. So again, I recognize that if you have a fourth or a fifth grader at Foster School, that feels like a long way away. But that is the process, and we continue to work towards that. I would also just let my colleagues know that last week I helped ratify the paraprofessional contract with the school committee that had expired. We ratified a contract that called for a 2% increase, which is consistent with pretty much all of our bargaining units in the town and in the school department. And lastly, this Saturday, the school department is having an annual planning workshop. I was pleased that Chairman Carrie Nee invited me to attend on behalf of the board as the board's liaison. So I will be participating in that workshop that will take place on Saturday morning, and you know, we'll give a readout. We'll give a readout afterwards. I think with that, that concludes our business for this evening. Joe, Bill, Tom, or Michelle, did I miss anything?
Mary, I missed something, if I could just add.
Please.
Just really very sad news. On September 21st, Rich Beal, who was the president of A.W. Perry and a Hingham resident and a dedicated Hingham resident, he died unexpectedly. He was 57 years of age, really committed to this town, and he will be missed.
Thank you, Joe. And the board extends its condolences to his family and his friends on a very big loss.
Yes.
With that, I would take a motion to adjourn.
I move we adjourn.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, Joe?
Aye.
Bill?
Aye.
Mary? Aye. Thank you, everybody. Good night.